Hi everyone, this is Wendy Allman, your host of Experiments in Poetry. Episode 13, we're going to discuss my poem, A Rude Awakening, I kind of subtitle it, A Postmodern Prometheus, and it's very AI robot inspired as well as Frankenstein inspired, so that is why my post title or my subtitle is the Postmodern Prometheus. My poem, A Rude Awakening, was inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And the subtitle of the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein book is The Modern Prometheus. So I call my poem, A Rude Awakening, the Postmodern Prometheus. Mary Shelley is attributed with the formation of the genre of science fiction novels. And her story is very fascinating and it links back to Ada Lovelace. So, Ada Lovelace was the night. Ada Lovelace was the 19th century mathematician female that the AI robot Ada was named after. The thing is, Mary Shelley was friends with Lord Byron, which is Ada Lovelace's father. Lord Byron was a famous poet in the early 1800s, and he was friends with Percy Shelley, who was the lover of Mary Shelley, and she would eventually wind up marrying him. There was about 1818, and they were on vacation in Germany, and they stayed at a place that was very close to Frankenstein Castle in Germany near the Rhine River. And about 200 years prior to them visiting this part of Germany, an alchemist lived there and did many, many experiments. So fast forward a few weeks later, Percy Shelley and Lord Byron and Mary, who were all writers, had a little friendly writing competition of who can write the most horrific story. And that is when Mary Shelley penned the story Frankenstein, thus inventing a whole entire new genre of writing, which is science fiction. However, during this period in the early 1800s to the mid 1800s, this was known as the Age of Enlightenment. And during this period, many people or educated persons kind of had the real sense of anything was possible and that it just was a matter of what the human imagination came up with. And there's been a lot of discussion about all the new inventions and all the new ideas that were coming. And so everybody was just alive with discussions about the future and hope for what science and technology will bring. And it just was a really, there was a real sense that science and mankind had no limits and anything could be achieved. The Ada Lovelace story, because I know I did say that I wanted to read some of her writings, and I did. I looked over some of her writings, but a lot of them were going back and forth between her and going between her and Charles Babbage when they were talking about her translations of a talk that he gave previously on the analytical engine. But not. I didn't really see too much of like what she foresaw in society, although there was a sense that from her writings that she might have downplayed what she thought the effect of the scientific meaning of having a computational thinking machine would have on society, because people were afraid of the technology or of some of the technologies coming about, as you can see with Mary Shelley writing the book Frankenstein and this whole genre of kind of goth storytelling and horror kind of came out about during this time period. So whether or not there was a lot of honesty in her writings about what she thought the meaning of this computational machine would be. However, I did find she was a woman after my own heart, and I really think in the future when I really would like in the future when I talk about my scientific writings, that I use some of this phraseology that she has used here because it's quite brilliant. She writes, I got into so amazing a quagmire and botheration with these numbers that I cannot possibly get the thing done today. I think that's going to be in my next work email. And then she says in a separate piece, I have worked incessantly and most successfully all day long. You will admire the table and diagram extremely. Oh, don't we wish people admired our tables and diagrams? They have been made out with extreme care and all the indices most minutely and scrupulously attended to. How nice. I really like that. I gotta bring back quagmire and botheration. I just needs to come back. It does. Um, or at least I will start using them all the time. So last week I had a really difficult time kind of explaining what it was exactly about Ada. I kept saying, and this is why I think I found it so disturbing. um, but long before Ada came along, I was thinking about some of the experiments that I have done and some of the research that I have done. And I kind of wrote this series of poems related to related to my previous work as a scientist and my emotions and grappling with the type of things that I had done. So, what exactly is Prometheus? So, Mary Shelley named her book Frankenstein the Modern Prometheus story. So Prometheus was an ancient Greek god who stole the fire from Mount Olympus, the sacred fires from Mount Olympus, and gave it to man. And with this fire, man no longer was now no longer dependent on the god's will for survival, because with this fire, they were able to provide warmth for themselves. They were able to have the ability to cook food. Not only that, it opened up a whole nother level of nutrition that wasn't available to them previously, which allowed, if you follow human evolution, having fire allowing us to cook allowed us to eat meat and our brains to grow substantially from this. So with this nutrition that we were able, with this added nutrition, our intelligence had grown. Also, so now we had But that would also help our survival because you had a wider variety of, because you now had a wider variety of nutrition available to you. Also, you were able to forge tools and weapons as well. Yes, giving the fire of the gods to mankind, the outcome of a human life is purely up to and a matter of human intention and learning. So Mary Shelley took this story of Prometheus and kind of fused it with the Frankenstein castle alchemy, um, with the alchemist that used to work at the Frankenstein castle, and kind of fused these stories together. Prometheus was punished for all eternity by the head god Zeus. So his story, his punishment is every day an eagle rips his insides, and is particularly, every day he gets eaten alive, and then every night he regenerates. And this torture he repeats over and over for all eternity. So when Mary Shelley calls her story the modern Prometheus, what she is saying is her fictional character, Dr. Frankenstein, takes the spark of life or the fire of the gods, and he gives this fire to an inanimate object or a dead, and he gives this fire to his own creation to create a new form of life. Is horrified by his creation, but not only that, his creation comes back and kind of haunts him and terrifies him and tortures him slowly throughout the rest of his life. So that is the torture that her modern Prometheus got. So in my poem, the Postmodern Prometheus, um, the hero is the narrator of the story. Now, it's really interesting because I made great care to not really give any details about the narrator. Is it a male, a female, non binary, whatever? What does he, should, she, it, they look like? I purposely left this ambiguous, as if to either, so that you can put your own self, um, envision your own self as this character, or to leave it open. There's no hard interpretation to this poem. It is meant to be open, and I left it purposely kind of like ambiguous in areas. So this way you can either, by not describing the main character too well, you can either see that as yourself and insert yourself there, or you can envision what the future person will look like and be, or even it could just be posed as a question of who are we going to be in this scene in the future. So when you're reading it, think about these things, and it's going to be very personal to everyone. I lie completely awake and keenly aware of the fever that racks my body. Muscles cramp all simultaneously. A hell-born chill commands my skin to sweat and my teeth to chatter. An immobilizing and unrelenting agony. This is what it feels like when your soul is dying. I did kind of want to keep it ambiguous, so I'm going to say like the bare minimum. Just here, you can kind of see that the person is laying there, and the person is just laying there. They're not really able to do anything. The only thing that they're able to do is feel all of this pain and suffering that they have. They're in a lot of pain. Now, lose it to your own imagination of what is causing this pain. Is it version? So in this poem, it's postmodern, so I'm keeping it ambiguous so that you can put your own interpretation into it. All you know here is that someone is in a lot of pain and suffering, and you need to insert your own idea of what is causing that suffering. Is it, do they have cancer? Do they have some other form of disease? Are they just gotten a bad accident of some sort and it's, physical pain? Are they in a really bad emotional distress, which is affecting their body in this way? Are they severely depressed? Are they poisoned? Is there something in the atmosphere? It's pretty much open, but all you know is that there's an immense amount of pain and suffering, and all the person could do is just simply lie there and they feel like their soul is dying. I can manage only this one thought, but even that is fleeting. So overcome by the burden of despair, I am incapable of rational thought and senses. Nothing can stop this aching. I cannot even speak. A primitive shriek is what I howl. How else to describe this pain? I'm sorry. How else to describe this hell I'm dwelling in? The poem is just going on to describe the suffering the narrator is in. They cannot think straight. They cannot even speak, so they can only lay still and feel their suffering. They cannot speak, and they can just kind of like shriek and make weird noises. It goes on to say, I lie in stillness into the first shift when my robotic nurse, the RN, jostles me into position. The medical detector, the MD, measures all vitals, functionality of the organ systems, concentration of nutrients, and most importantly, all medications. The RN reviews what the MD calculates its patient needs. So here, so in this best artificial intelligence robot in a supporting role would go to the robotic nurse, and she comes in and I do a play because, right now a nurse is an RN, which is just, it stands for registered nurse. But I have changed the language. There's no longer any registered human nurses. But right now, what you have is AI robotic nurses, which you still call an RN, just to keep it consistent and, it's what you feel comfortable with. And then an MD, which is a medical doctor nowadays, but in the future, I envision it as a medical detector. That's what the MD stands for. So you kind of have the AI robotic nurse, which is going to be doing a lot of the administration of medications, a lot of the changing of bandages and physical stuff like this, and kind of like, using the medical instruments such as the blood pressure and the temperature and the heart rate and all that they kind of do today, except it'd be done by a robot. And then she feeds that information into the medical detector, and the medical detector will say like whether everything's okay or not. A play on the nurse doctor relationship, except here it's all done with AI technologies and robots. I lie motionless like a cadaver in rigor mortis. As the RN attaches the therapeutic drip to my central portal, glucose with a soupçon of oxy well done and a caffeine petafunus fusion is served. I reanimate as I absorb my breakfast. I am pitiful creature, eve of its labor. So I lie motionless like a cadaver in rigor mortis. So rigor mortis is the stage of it after death where your body kind of like clamps up into one specific position, and it's like you are like in that stiff position, and you can't move. The muscles are frozen in one particular position, and that happens a couple hours after death. So the narrator feels like they're so stiff that it's like their body is dead. And then when the nurse comes in, the robot nurse comes in and gives them their medicine through their central portal, which again, it's left ambiguous. What is the central portal? Is it their mouth? Is it some sort of kind of like, if you've ever seen some people have like a port installed in their chest if they get medicines constantly all the time that they need IV. Um, is it something like that? You should figure what you want to mean it as. But I love that fact that you're getting glucose, which is just mainly an energy source, sugar, and then it's with the soupçon of oxy well done, which soupçon is like a fancy word for a little bit, which I just thought was really funny here. And then to use the term oxy well done, which is kind of like a play at oxycodone or any one of these opiate type of drugs. And I call it oxy well done, so it makes you feel real good. Um, and a caffeine petafunus fusion. I thought that was kind of funny because it's a play on caffeine, and then petafunus means is derived from Latin, which is a word I made up. It's a word I made up. Petafunus is Walking Dead. So the caffeine Walking Dead fusion, which, sometimes I need some of those in the morning as well to get me going and come back to life. And then they state, I am pitiful creature, eve of its labors. Now, I think this is really interesting because in the Frankenstein story of Mary Shelley's, the human Dr. Victor Frankenstein is the Prometheus, and he is giving the spark that he got from the Greek god Prometheus. Then he's the modern Prometheus who then gives it to his creation. And so now my story, the postmodern Prometheus, is that creation, the AI robotic nurse, is now the postmodern Prometheus, and she is working over the human body, which is now the creature, and trying to take this motionless, stiff, cadaver like thing that can't even move until the robot comes and smooths in all these medications on it to bring it back and give it that spark of the fire of the gods once again. So moving it full circle to the creation is now over its creator, trying to pump some life back into it. Oh yeah, before I forget, before I go on, I want to point out the painting that I have over here or over there. I don't really know where it's going to be. On last week's episode, I also had a piece of artwork. That painting on episode 12 that was representative was self-portraits of Ada, the robot artist, Mallard William Turner. Now, what's interesting about this is that it was painted in 1842. So Ada Lovelace was alive in the 30s, 40s. Mary Shelley was doing her thing, and then also Joseph Mallard William Turner. And these are all artists or persons alive at that point in time, and such an affinity towards people of this time period because it was the industrial revolution was just occurring. And I feel like people alive at that time were similar to how I might be thinking and feeling, because I don't know what they want to call this, the fourth industrial revolution, or it was like when I was born into a time where even though the technology, like a computer existed, but those computers were only owned, they were so large and they were owned by like the military. And it wasn't yet in everyone's home, or even worse yet, in everyone's hand, carried with them at all times. And maybe you have multiple computers, like an affinity towards these people who were living in the early 1800s, because they were living at a time where their life when they were younger was very, there weren't a lot of machines or a lot of industry. And then they lived to see the kind of whole entire world transform to all these big steam engines and all these big machines and factories. And I like the work of Turner, the painter Turner, because you look at it and you're like, you just know what he's thinking in his head, which is, what the hell is this? Like he has this beautiful, what could be a beautiful landscape, but all he sees is like the pollution from the factory kind of swirling around and laying on top of everything. And I think that he really loved the technology. It wasn't that he was saying, oh, this is disgusting, I'm going to paint it like this. I think he really was in awe of of the technology, and was just kind of like using his artistry to paint that confusion. I think he really like to go see the new technologies of this Enlightenment period and talk about it and all that. But when you look at his paintings, I feel like you see this raw kind of like, what do I really feel about this? Kind of thing. Like, and again, this is all subjective. It's just me going through something very similar where, yeah, I'm fascinated by science. I'm a scientist. I study, science as well. But at the same point in time, when my phone just starts talking to me randomly, or uh, like I need a app on my phone just to turn on my coffee maker or something like this. I'm just like, what the hell? Why can't I just press the power button on my coffee maker? Why do I need an app to turn on my coffee maker and set the temperature using my phone to my coffee maker? Why can't I just like walk over and press the power button? It's less steps, and I feel like that is something of my generation. We're like one of the last few people to remember what it's like to not live a life where everything is so computer dominated. And so with that, this is the painting The Snowstorm by Turner, where there's a single engine polluting in the middle, and it kind of takes over the whole image and the whole scene. The robot nurse adds a second serving of infusion for the thirsty one. The essentially delicious histidine, isoleucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, valine, with numerous additives, shoot it through my veins. Everything needed via the portal, morning, noon, and night. So here I'm just talking about, eating breakfast, uh, and all of these agents that I'm listing are all just amino acids. And then I'm just like, and other stuff. And then I'm talking about shoot it through my veins. I get it in the portal morning, noon, and night. So again, whatever you envision that portal is, the portal a screen? Is the portal your veins where you're getting your drugs? Is the portal some computer chip that you have? What is this portal, and how do you get your needs met through it? I receive miracles from the apothecary too. Citalopram, hydromorphone, prednisone, duloxetine, eternum vitae, levothyroxine, insulin, to name just a portion. 100 medications a day to dual extremes. A prescription for all afflictions and addictions. This is not this isn't a commentary in any way towards any person living today that takes medications for what they absolutely need to get through the day and survive from an illness. This is specifically talking about a futuristic world where we don't we can't even move without a medicine. You can't even think until you get a medication in you. This is not, oh, I'm just, I know I mentioned insulin here. I'm diabetic and I need my insulin. The point of mentioning like insulin here is to say, we're living in a world at this point in time where every little need, you need a medicine for, because you just cannot live naturally anymore at all. So in that note, I say, I need it to wake up. I need it to sleep. I need it to move. I need it to be still. I need it to feel emotion. I need it to numb emotion. I need it to numb emotion. I need it to remember, and I need it to forget. I am a pitiful creature, eve of its labor. The agents begin to take effect. I am able to open my eyes. The RN offers me water-soaked sponges, lip balm, and salve to hydrate. Thereupon the nurse's chest, another serpent materializes. The symbol of Asclepius? Something about it, blur of Caduceus? Do you heal or harm with your winged rod decorated with snakes? The narrator is laying there, and the narrator is laying there and finally starting to become a little bit more coherent. And the first thing that they notice is this emblem on the robotic nurse, which looks like, and I'm going to go ahead and insert it here, a serpent around a staff. But as she becomes awake, it blurs into the two snakes around the wing staff, which is called a caduceus. Now, the difference between these two symbols is very different because the single staff with the snake is a symbol of the god Asclepius, Greek god, which was a Greek god of healing and medicine. Now, this is a good symbol that you would want a nurse to be wearing. However, uh, the other gods killed Asclepius, and true story. No, true in mythology is that the other gods killed Asclepius because they did not want him making humans immortal. So they killed them because they didn't want humans to rival. They killed him because they didn't want humans to rival the gods. So you cannot have an Asclepius anymore. So now what you have is the blur to a caduceus. Now, a caduceus is the symbol or the staff carried by the god Hermes or Mercury, and he is the god of thieves, merchants, and messengers. And interestingly enough, a lot of medical institutions mistakenly use the symbol of the caduceus for medicine, but it's actually a symbol of just being a merchant or a thief. So, selling you snake oils, that term snake oil, uh, which was about, oh, I have this cure, and then you take it and it's really just olive oil, right? It doesn't cure anything. So, perhaps that is a play on the modern state of medicine, or perhaps that's a poke at maybe what the modern medicine community has become, more of an industry to sell you a medical condition. You'll have a commercial and it'll be like, you know do your eyelashes look skinny? Go ahead and take this cream to put on your eyelashes and it'll help them multiply and grow longer. May cause cancer, infertility, diarrhea, etc., etc., but you're going to have some sexy eyelashes for damn sure. So, yeah, the symbol of the caduceus. So, I go on. Coal-colored snakes with onyx eyes, similar to the ones who taunt me most nights, with disturbed coils, emptying and swelling, and undulating tongues. The sinister serpent's image sears through to a rude awakening. So, um, this closes out the poem, and it's now that she has all of her medications and she's wide awake, she's aware that this isn't actually or the main character is aware that this actually isn't in her best interest, this situation. And of course there's a play on the snakes, which can go back to like the Garden of Eden, and how this here she's seeing, as she's awakening, she's seeing the serpents on this symbol of caduceus on the robot, and it totally freaks her out. It totally freaks the narrator out, because she is seeing what should be a static symbol, but she could see its tongue moving and she can see them breathing and slithering on it. And that's the stuff of nightmares. So it taunts me most nights. And she's not in control. maybe even of her own dreams, maybe not even of what she perceives as reality, because how can a symbol on a shirt or a symbol on the chest of a robot be moving? So I think at this point that they're kind of, the narrator is aware that um, in this nightmare scenario that she don't know where she is, what's going on, and is just kind of kept in this state of torture every single day, of having these nightmares at night and then being awoken in the morning to have this routine done on them where they kind of get reanimated and pushed back into some sort of living state. But then you're aware that the state that you're in and the things that you're seeing are not really accurate either. So that is the rude awakening. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you have any poetry that you would like featured on this channel, please contact me at wendy@experimentsinpoetry.com. Hit the like and subscribe if you'd like to receive future episodes featuring my poetry as well as the poetry of others. And also, if you have any songs or lyrics that you would like covered on this channel, you could feel free to comment below. Thank you.